It's time to practice the things you learned about outputting conditional content and lists. Now here's your assignment, here are your tasks. I first of all want you to create an input field inside the root app component with a change listener, which simply outputs the length of the entered text below it, for example in a paragraph. This is nothing new, this is simply what you learned thus far already, adding an event listener, using the user input, rendering it. You probably need state for this. There's nothing conditional or listy about this yet. It'll change soon though. In task number 2, I want you to create a new component, for example name it validation component, which receives the text length as a prop. So the length of the text the user enters. You probably should store this length in the state too. You can get it with the length property executed on the entered text, because keep in mind, JavaScript strings are basically arrays, so you can use array methods on them. In task number 3, I now also want you to work inside validation component and not only receive that property, but either output text too short or text long enough, depending on the text length, and choose any cutoff point you want. For example, 5 is a minimum length, but that's totally up to you. You won't need to manage the state invalidation component for that. You get the text length as prop, and now it's up to you to conditionally render one of these two texts, for example in a paragraph inside validation component. In task number 4, I then want you to create another component, the char component for example, and style it as an inline box. Here are some example styles you could use. Set the display to inline block, padding for example to 16 pixels, align the text in the center if you want, add a margin of 16 pixels to have some distance between the blocks, and give it a border of 1 pixel solid and black. Maybe also give it a background color, whatever you want. I then want you to render a list of these char components, and there should be one char component per character the user entered. Again, text is just basically an array, so you should be able to do that. And I want you to pass this character as a prop, so that basically you display the text as a couple of boxes, but the boxes of course are sitting next to each other and in the end still form the word the user entered. Make sure to render this list of char components simply in the app component, not inside the validation component, though of course you would be free to do that too, but app component is fine. When you then click a char component, I want you to remove the char of the clicked component from the entered text. So you're probably managing the user input in state anyways, and you then need to update the state for the given position. Remove it. This of course will also affect the text in the input field if you set up two-way binding, which I recommend. And it basically practices what you learned over the last lectures, executing code dependent on which element something happens on. You learned all of that, might sound complicated. Feel free to go back to the previous lectures if something is unclear. Definitely try it on your own, and feel free to then follow along with me as I will show you my solution in the solution video. Now, before you dive into the assignment, here's one important note without which you probably won't be able to complete tasks 5 and 6. In the hint, I write that JavaScript strings are basically arrays, and this is only kind of true. They are not arrays. They are kind of arrays of characters, but not all array methods are available on strings. For example, map won't be available. Splice won't be available. You need these two methods for the tasks 5 and 6 though. What you can do and what you should do is you can convert a string into a real array of text by calling split, the split method on your text, and passing an empty string as an argument to it. So if the input by the user is, for example, stored in a user input property, user input dot split with parentheses, and in the parentheses just an empty string, we'll split it into an array of characters, and you can call map on that then. And the same for splicing. You can then splice something on such a converted array, and then with join and an empty string as an input, you can turn it back into text. This will be important for task 6. So this is some extra challenge, some extra hint I just want to pass to you. You can also find this hint in the description of this assignment here. So down there, down below this video, I also listed these two methods and how to use them. With that, enjoy the assignment. Definitely try it first on your own, and then you can always compare your solution to mine in the solution video.